Hi guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so excited you decided to click on this video today. This video is actually really different from a lot of the content that I make. I do beauty, hairstyle, vlogs, but I've been called to make this video for about a year and a half to almost 2 years now, just because of how I know my experience isn't unique to me. I know there are many other women that have experienced what I've experienced, and also the things that I have experienced, I feel like I'm now processing it and realizing how much of an effect it has had on me and my relationships with my friends and family and other people. And for someone that's really looking to grow as a person while also not placing the limits on myself that other people have placed on me, and working through, you know, the trauma and the things that I experienced. And being told multiple times that your story is your power, and share my story in hopes that, you know, this resonates with other women out there. It's about my last serious long-term relationship. And the reason why this is so significant is because during the time period that I was in this long-term relationship, I say it was almost like a year and a half to 2 years, I think, I was also experiencing complications with my mom and my parental figures. And I think that there's very similar parallels when it comes to their behavior and how they operated, the negative impact that they had on me at the time, and to this day as I'm working through it and realizing the toxicity or tendencies that I tend to have, whether it's about myself or about friends or about family, and the extra barriers that I put up that I now have to work to bring down and set healthy boundaries, so that I know that I'm putting myself first at the end of the day. Hopefully you resonate with my story and just know that, you know, you're not alone and that you deserve someone, friends, family, relationships, people, coworkers that are going to value you, respect you, hear your stories, and not minimize your experiences or your trauma. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into the video. I met this person a couple of years ago, I would say 2021. I was in my second year of undergraduate studies and met them on a dating app. I know dating apps are something that people use today, and I know a couple friends that are in amazing, healthy, happy relationships from dating apps, and I know people that are like, oh my gosh, like, I don't use dating apps. Currently, I'm not on anything, and I think it's just been me working through everything that I've been through in the past year, with losing my mom and having her funeral and doing all that. So I kind of been hesitant to date, but I'll touch on that later in the video. We met online. In the very beginning, he was super kind, he was super nice. When I was in school, like, he would just show up and walk me to class, and it was something that I never expected from a guy, because from this time period I didn't actually have that many serious relationships. I was just coming out of high school, second year of college, like I already said. And so meeting someone that was very attentive and very kind and very sweet, it was almost as if I fell head over heels for someone super quick, and I was able to open up and be vulnerable with someone, which was very, very difficult for me already, given that my childhood was very traumatic, very abusive, being separated from my parents, being in foster care. I think this is really crucial to point out how ready I was to open up, given that someone was willing to, it seemed like they were putting in the effort. Like I said, they were kind, they were charming, they were cute, you know, I thought they were attractive, whatever, but it was just something that I didn't experience and see. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can trust this person. And I think that's where I was too trusting too soon, because it was almost as if like I was stuck in a honeymoon phase for so long, and when red flags started to show up, I would very much ignore those red flags. A red flag that I noticed and ignored because of how infatuated I was that he was hesitant to make things official after we were being so vulnerable and doing so many things together, meeting families, taking trips together. And that was just one of the many red flags, okay? He would also say things that are key indicators of insecurity and things that just you do not want to stick around, fix someone. He would say things like, you're too good for me, or I don't deserve you, I don't deserve X, Y, and Z. And of course, me being very naive and being so vulnerable with this person and being afraid to lose that, I was, you know, like, no, you're fine. It's okay. We can work it out. We'll be fine. We'll be great. We'll be good. Like, we're okay. I genuinely feel like this was just the wrong person for me at their right time. Because during this time period in my life with my undergraduate studies, I was fighting to get custody of my sister. You guys know that she lives with me now if you see from like my Instagram and social media. I was trying to graduate. I really didn't have the college experience of really partying and living it up. It was pretty much me working 2 part-time jobs, being in college, trying to financially support my sister and get an apartment. And I was looking for a full-time job. Like, if I was going to get my sister, I needed to get a full-time job. What really led to me fighting to get my sister was my mom's struggle with her mental health and addiction. And I know that those can be touchy topics, but part of healing and growing from that situation and not letting it limit you in your current state, in your current day, is acknowledging the things that your friends and family experienced and how they affected you. So, you know, addiction running in my family has impacted my mindset, how I view relationships, how I view friendships, how I set boundaries for myself or lack thereof. And while giving my mom the utmost grace, that was where my headspace was really fighting to basically live my life for someone else and try and save my sister. So I wasn't focused on realizing the toxicity and emotional manipulation and abuse that this intimate relationship was providing to me at the time. Very quickly, I would say like 2-3 months in, this person started becoming really controlling. Couldn't hang out with my friends. If I did something wrong, I was ignored or ghosted. I had no idea why. They would lie to me and tell me a different story than what they would tell their parents or their family members to try and guilt trip me into thinking that I did something wrong or that I looked bad in front of their friends or their family. And that even stems from the childhood experiences that I was put through in foster care, where I was an over people pleaser to try and avoid being abused, whether it was physically or any other way, and not rock the boat, right? So it was the same survival mechanisms that I had that I basically didn't know how to solve, if that makes sense. I was always the one to overextend myself. I had to text 24/7. If not, I was the one cheating, or I was the one that, you know, was doing something wrong. If I looked at a person in public a wrong way, it was, oh, you like them, you're cheating, right? I'd be at work and they would text me, who are you eating lunch with, or who are you talking to? I really did isolate myself from my friends and family to try and make sure that this relationship would still last. I wasn't allowed to partake in my passions or my hobbies. I had to drop dance classes. I couldn't spend my money on the things that I wanted for myself, whether it was to get my hair done or get my lashes done or my nails. My financials were being looked at. Not, I wouldn't necessarily say that they had control over my finances, because at the end of the day I did, but I definitely was guilt tripped and made to feel like I was doing something horribly wrong for treating myself with my own money that I worked for. And I was only, it was never a problem when I was buying him gifts or going into debt for him or doing things that would make him happy. But if it was me, it was a different story. And that is a level of financial manipulation. That is what I experienced. I was told that my childhood trauma was too much to deal with and that it should just be someone else's problem. And I think this is a key situation that really just reaffirmed the negative self-beliefs that I had about my childhood, and thinking that, oh my gosh, because I experienced all of this, I am unlovable as a person in my friends, family, relationships, whatever. And that's just not true. The experiences and the traumas that you faced as a child, currently today as an adult, do not define who you are. What defines who you are your values, your character, how you uphold yourself, and how you treat other people. And looking back at this relationship, it really just did reaffirm that, like, I wish I had the time and the capacity to really nip this in the bud instead of allowing it to continue for 2.5 years. Some of like the crazy stories that I have had in this relationship was being stranded by myself with a dead phone in New York City Central Park at like 2-3 a.m. all because, you know, they got upset that I bought some heels that they did not like. And even that whole moment was just crazy in itself. And then that night, actually, when I walked back to the hotel and he was able to catch an Uber back to the hotel, his ex texted him. For whatever reason, I guess she saw that we were in New York, and he proceeded to talk to her for a sense of closure. And I just sat around like, you know what, I support you and I love you and I care about you. Get whatever you need. I don't have any reason to not trust you, when I feel like that's a very clear boundary where you can set, and that's not you being toxic. This relationship led to them cheating on me. I don't know the full story of who or how he cheated on me, because there were details that he kept from me, and I think that alone is enough to say I don't deserve any of this. After this moment, I really was already situated with my sister and everything. Even that was a whole issue in the relationship, was that I didn't have time for him in the relationship, but I had time for my family, I had time for my sister. I was verbally degraded in this relationship. I was called all the horrible names that you could call someone. Just think of all the curse words that you could call a woman. They were derogatory. They were just uncharacteristic of me. Like wearing pencil skirts to work, I was labeled a slut. Or Ho-Toria were nicknames that were given to me, not to be funny or joking haha. These were very demeaning, made to make me feel very less than. The reason I'm sharing this experience is because of how much it has affected the way I now proceed with relationships and friendships and boundaries. And so now it's almost as if I'm trying to work through the childhood trauma I experienced, as well as the trauma that I experienced from this relationship, while simultaneously dealing with the trauma that I experienced from my mom regarding my sister and her addiction and her declining mental health. What I want to share with you is that healing is not linear, And you deserve someone that's going to see you, value you, respect you, and not make you afraid to truly open up about the things that you experienced. Because at the end of the day, the more you share your story, the more you realize and see around you how many other people have experienced very similar things or situations. And when you see people like that, it actually brings more unity and empathy rather than isolating someone and making it seem like you are just this unlovable being that doesn't have feelings or thoughts or emotions. How this has shown up for me, which is why I'm really doing the inner work, is because I now approach situations where I purposely want to separate myself and hold back from being vulnerable in hopes that I don't have to share about myself and the inner subconscious thoughts and beliefs, that people can just see the trauma that I've experienced right across my forehead, even though that's not true. As well as the feelings of embarrassment for things that I, as a child, did not have any control over. And even with the relationship that I was in, embarrassment for allowing myself to be put through that, when actuality, it wasn't me allowing the behavior. It was me in a situation where I did not have the mind capacity, the physical strength or capacity to deal with those things because of the other traumatic things that were coming up in my life during that time. So clocking that relationship or leaving whenever just wasn't something that I could deal with at that moment. And it wasn't until everything pretty much settled down and it got to a point where I can't do this anymore, I'm at a breaking point, you know, cheating, whatever was the last straw, I'm at a breaking point. I do not want to be with you anymore, and therefore this relationship is over. And once the relationship ended, there was some spiraling. There was reaching out to my family. There was, you know, showing up to my apartment unannounced, leaving stuff outside my apartment, driving to, you know, my godfather's house, and all these other things just to try and get back in connection with me, or even occurrences of coincidentally seeing me in public and trying to stop and talk to me and making lies about my dog or whatever to try and just rekindle some sort of connection or to try and talk about it. I know for a fact that I never put them through the emotional manipulation that I was put through. Letting go of that situation and being like, okay, you know what? I'm removing myself to take care of myself and wishing you all the best. From here on out, I now am doing the inner work to really just put myself first. And I think that's why I've really been focusing on myself, not just in a physical aspect, a mental and emotional capacity, to where I'm taking the time to sit down with my thoughts and really set healthy boundaries with not just potential love interests, but boundaries with friends and family and work, so that I can actually start to live a life that is in congruence with the values that I want, values that I uphold and what I agree with. Maybe in other videos I'll talk about crazy stories from that relationship because there was just so much that had happened. But this video I wanted to focus on how that relationship has affected the subconscious and how I move around with other people and how my barriers are up and I don't, you know, share as easily around men, specifically really hesitant and really distant and not willing to let down those barriers just yet. And that's where the inner work is coming into play, where I want to be able to be vulnerable with friends, family, potential partners, and working towards that. If you got to the end of this video, comment down below if you've been in an emotionally abusive manipulation type of situation with a situationship or past relationship or parental situations, because those can be emotionally abusive and manipulative as well. But just know that you are valued. Your experiences are just experiences. They do not define who you are as a person. you are, you know, valued, you're a light, you are loved. I will see you all in the next one.